My name is Tim Tyler, and I'm sort of an artist. I'm a performer who paints, and what I do is I paint during the day when I'm performing at night. One of the reasons why I started to do this was because of realizing that I'm not a very good tourist, and being away from home and being in these unusual places after a few days as a tourist, I need something else to do, and I like to channel my energy into something. And painting became sort of a companion that is... This is the jungle where I was actually born, and these are the leaves. This is the sort of the animal kingdom that was behind it, and this is all related to my mother's death. And so she's here, and she's also up there, and I'm now trying to sort of tell the story about their life in Africa, and finally to her death. And she was from Perth, which is what the swan represents here, being a lady from Perth. And this is actually my little cherubs. I've got two cherubs. One is playing the ukulele, one's playing the violin. And down here is a contrabass, a double bass, which is also playing her celestial music. And down here is a little pig who I'm very keen on, he represents our sort of an aspect of the human being that we often try and avoid, but the pig is actually playing Old Black Magic, which was one of my mother's favourite songs. The fish, for me, which I also like, represents sort of our spiritual nature, where we're sort of the aspect in which the human isn't really physically bound to the earth, but we're always floating around. And with her death, I brought in quite a few fish, because my mother actually doesn't like my fish, but I decided to have a lot of fish surrounding her to lead her off into her next world. Yeah, and in here there's a little thing that was read by my brother for the eulogies in the church, and it says, "For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun?" It's by Khalil Gibran. Yeah. Up in here also, this is her magic potion. Aldous Brew is what it is, and it's Bonington's Irish Moss. And this was in fact the substance that she found to help my father. When they first met, my father lost his voice. He was screaming too much and telling very rude songs, or singing very rude songs. And she suggested Bonington's Irish Moss as a remedy for her throat. Because of that, they fell in love. So that... Yes, and my little zebra up here, which is obviously the jungle world from East Africa, from Geita, Tanganyika. We used to have quite a few animals coming into our house. My father actually had to have a gun, because we had snakes and tigers and lions, all sorts of wild creatures coming in. Yeah, and as you know, this painting has transformed over the few months that I've been working on because of the death of my mother. Before, it actually was down here was actually our house in Montreal, in a bathroom setting. We had a basin over here, and we had this bath that was further over this way, and this is the floor actually of the house in Montreal. And I recently retiled the floor in these black and white checks, so that's why I put them in. So it's all everything in the painting relates to stories in my life. And the priest over here, that actually is me. He's a sort of a bit sad and forlorn, but that's part of life. It's this very sad process in losing a parent, but you know, we all go through it. And there I am, sort of thinking sort of my priestly feeling, sort of contemplating life and death and all that sort of. Yeah. So the process of a painting for me is, well, for a start, I never actually know what I'm going to do. I have an idea in my head, and then I just begin. With this one here, I think, if I remember correctly, I actually have some old photos of it, because I was taking a photo every few days to show the process. The first person was this bath. This bath was a bit further over here, and this was a nude lady in the bath, and she was actually in our house in Montreal. I started in sort of a fairly empty space with just the bath and this nude sitting in it. I wanted to do a nude, was my desire for this project. And then I put over here a basin, and gradually, I mean, in all my work, things change as we go along. One idea doesn't work, another idea, I suddenly have another insight into something. And then all of a sudden I decided to have, in this bathroom, two people watching, and then I said, oh no, I'll have them dancing. So I then had I brought in all these dancing people, which was an aspect of one of our stories of East Africa, where my parents were talking about their parties that they used to have and how they would get dressed up sometimes and do shows. Sometimes they would just get dressed up and have a dinner party. And my grandmother, in fact, her husband used to, and this really fascinated me, he was in Sarawak during the 1930s, and they would eat in the middle of literally the jungle, camping, but every evening they would put out damask white tablecloths, wine glasses, cutlery, and they would dine in the jungle, literally. So this was a bit of an inspiration about my parents' life and this life. Then with my mother's death, I then moved. I wanted to put another person in there, so I moved. Paintings, you can move everything as you like. So I then moved this person, which was my mother, a little bit further over this way. I brought in the priest. In fact, in the beginning, before that, there was the person with the priest, or this other person was over this way, and he was naked. It was a naked scene because she was naked and he was naked. He was not totally naked, but he was about to get into the bath, was my idea. But so then I had to move him over there, move her this way, and I got rid of the bath and I put in one of my pigs, which I think is the sort of gluttonous side of the human being. But yeah, the process is it's a continually changing thing. All the time, my mind sees another idea, and I start reflecting upon what the painting is about, or what story I'm trying to tell. And once that becomes clear, it becomes obvious to me how it has to transform. And you'll find in most of the paintings, in fact all bar one or so, I always have some red curtains inside the painting, which to me talks about the theatre world and my life as a performer and my life as the artist, and especially the influence by the beauty in my mind of these amazing Spiegelzels, where I have been working for about 20 years.